So we have two options to open central admin. Either you can go through the regular option, start menu, all programs, central admin, right click on the browser, or through IIS, because it's end of the day Sharepoint is a website. It's a website hosted on the web server. Okay. Now once you connect to the form, the immediate step is to walk through the form. So here, the moment we access Sharepoint Central Administrations, under System Settings, you can click on the first step. The first step after accessing Sharepoint Central Administration is to navigate to System Settings. The navigate is nothing but under System Settings, click on manage servers in the form. Manage servers in the form. So what happens here? This will list out how many servers you have in the form. This will list this number of servers in the form and how the services are configured. Typically you can find the database server. If you have any other specific server for a form, you can list out. This is the first step. Okay, this is all about form. We will see in the ongoing classes on the practical session how to see that, but for now theoretically, okay, this is the form. Okay, form is nothing but the central admin. It is the admin console for Sharepoint administrators to create, configure and manage the entire Sharepoint form. It is your first interface. It is your first interface to interact with other scopes in the form. Moving forward, so what is the next thing? We need to learn about a web application. So we have learned form. Form is nothing but you can have it in one or more servers. We can address this in the next classes if you want to see the installation, but for now, okay, the takeaway for you is you can have all the three roles either in one box or in distributed in multiple servers. So generally if you have more servers, okay, if you have the configuration, then you can have separate server for this each role, then it can be a form. So even in a single server we can call it as a form until unless you select this server form. Okay, next one, web application. What is a web application? Web application, the terminology, the name itself refers to the .NET website. So it's similar, both are similar, but the only difference is ASP.NET website, we will set up some startup page, nothing but we will have some default.aspx, home.aspx, some page. But here this web application in Sharepoint will not have any startup page. It is just a virtual directory. It is a virtual directory which resides on IIS and contains information about database, application pool or website, and the service applications associated. In other words, it is just a schema or a skeleton or a structure. It's a platform on which you can run your websites. Okay, so this is just creating a interface for you to run your first top level site or a subsite, but this is not something that you can access. Okay, this will create your platform to have the database in a SQL server, application pool and website hosted on your web server, and the service applications which are associated to run your website. It is a virtual directory which resides on web server It is a virtual directory which resides on web server and contains information about content database, comma, application pool or website, and the service applications associated. And the service applications associated. In a single line, it is just a schema or skeleton or a structure, nothing but a platform for you to structure. It's nothing but it's a platform to run your websites, run the platform to run websites, okay. So this web application, so within the form you can create it. So web application can be created either using central admin or using PowerShell. But prior to that, let me create web application. Is something that you cannot access, cannot be accessible. Web application is not something that you can access, it cannot be accessible, okay. Next thing, exercise. To create a web application, we can use either a GUI or command line utility. For us, so web application can be created either using GUI. What is the GUI here? Sharepoint central admin or command line interface. What is that? Your PowerShell, okay. So using GUI, you can access through the central admin, okay. We will see that in the next class, but in today's class let us try to learn about PowerShell, how to create a web application using PowerShell, okay. So creating a web application using PowerShell, okay. So first that we need to learn the syntax. This is how you will see PowerShell when you launch. So how to launch the PowerShell? Launch the PowerShell, SharePoint PowerShell. How to do that? Go through start menu, all programs, SharePoint 2013 products. There right click on SharePoint 2013 management shell and run as administrator. So as a best practice, I always click on right click run as administrator to eliminate any security issues, any access related issues, so that we want to ensure that you are delegated to run through the commands, okay. Now once you launch the PowerShell, this is how you will see a black color window. PS means your PowerShell namespace from a development C users/administrator. Generally this is how, if you have logged in using the administrator, this is what you see on the screen, okay. The syntax. First thing, create a variable $some variable, store the authentication provider new -sp authentication provider. Here you can hit enter. Just you can hit enter. In the next line, You can see users administrator. You can type this, but before that, what is that I have? Let me show you the syntax. Okay, so before that, the same thing I can show you the syntax. Okay, new hyphen sp web application. This is the syntax. I'll tell you. Name, these are the parameters. You can pass name of the website, IIS website. These are the parameters that you need to pass. Application pool, name of the application pool, give any name. Application pool account. So here application pool account. So here input this service account. Input this service account. You are nothing but your managed account. Managed account or dedicated account for the to run the SharePoint application pools, but make sure that this account has permissions on the database. Then URL, input the URL, typical HTTP URL by providing http://server name, where you want to host the site. Then provide the port number, input port number. Then you have the authentication provider. So whatever the variable that you have created in the first step, you have to input that provider, input the variable name. Okay, then your database name of the content DB, give any user friendly name. Okay, now if you hit enter, this is the syntax. Now if you hit enter, this will first create the content database in SQL Server, then your website within the IIS and the application pool, and all the service applications are associated by default. So just in case if you want to have the entire thing and how it looks, let me create an example. So let me show you on how it looks in an example. Okay, PowerShell C: users / administrator. This is your command. This is your command line. Now if I need to create a web application, how it looks. Okay, so $variable is equals to new hyphen sp authentication provider, and the best thing with PowerShell is you don't have to type all these commands. You can just press tab key, IntelliSense, that's called as IntelliSense works for you, and hit enter. Now in the next line, you will see the same command. Now let us try to write the command in a linear way. You should not do any break here. It's a single statement. Provide a space, hyphen, name is the parameter which expects some inputs. So everything, all these are parameters: name, application pool account, URL, all these are the inputs, parameters where you need to provide. So here let me say if I have space in the parameters, in the input that I need to provide, then you need to use double quotes. If you feel that okay, let me create a SharePoint site as SharePoint -1000, okay, then as this has space and a hyphen, we consider this as a single string. It's a single string, it expects a string, so we need to use it in double quotes. Now if you don't have any spaces or any other strings, you can directly pass without double quotes, but as a best practice let us use double quotes. Next, see, I'm using a space, no enter, it's not enter. Then application pool space provide the input. Again I want to follow the same naming convention. Let me give the application pool as SharePoint 1000 itself. So I want to follow the same thing in order to avoid any confusion. Okay, on the IAS we are trying to make sure that the names are consistent. Then the application pool account parameter, which is very interesting. Now people will be confused, what is the account that I can input? So generally this will be your domain slash service account, SP Apple something, SP service account, SP service account, okay. So here the SP service account, you can use it whatever you have in your premises, in your company premises. Then parameter URL http server name, okay, whatever the server name where you are planning to host the SharePoint. Then port, here let me, as I am using 1000, let me make it consistent. 1000 will be my port number. That's the reason I see SharePoint -1000 in my web application, SharePoint in my application pool as well, website and the application pool. Next thing, the authentication provider. Authentication provider, you have to provide the name of the dollar variable, it will come up, IntelliSense. Then the database name, as per the naming convention we follow WSS underscore content underscore, we use the port number, generally we go with the 1000 port number, you can go with the port number, or generally we use whatever the port number that I felt is 1000, okay. Now if you hit enter, usually it will take around 5 to 10 minutes. PowerShell will be little bit fast when compared to the GUI, hardly it should complete within 5 minutes, below 5 minutes, okay. Again it all depends upon the form configuration that you have in place. If your form is a highly performing environment, then it should be, the web application should be created in less than 3 minutes, okay. Now hit enter. But what is the notes that we need to have here? Notes, note, domain slash SP service account should be replaced with your details. So if your company is share, then you can have share. If it is Apple, then you can have Apple. Should be replaced with your form, with your details available within the form. Server name should also be http server name / server name should be replaced by, server name should be replaced by your with the server hosting, SharePoint or IAS, okay. So this way it creates. So what is the output that you see? The output generally you will see here, in this case you will see the output http SharePoint -1000 created successfully, SharePoint -1000 or the URL. For example, let's assume if my server name is host http, if my server name, considering the server name, if the server name is host, then the URL will be http://host. Then the web application URL will be http://host:1000. So this moving forward, this is your web application URL. Now the next question that comes in our mind is, can I use this URL to access in the browser? No. It has just created an interface on which you can run your site collections or your subsites. Okay, so this is something that you cannot access at this point. We cannot access the above URL because it does not contain any pages. It is just at this moment it is just a platform. At this moment it's a platform. It's a platform or a virtual directory. It's a platform or a virtual directory residing on the IIS. Now the next thing, how can I access this website? So to access this URL, the next thing is we need to start creating site collections. Okay, we need to start creating site collections. These are also called as your top level sites. So even the same thing, site collections you can also create using GUI central admin or using PowerShell. So generally the easiest way is to create using GUI, PowerShell, using central admin. Browse through central admin. Then the first site collections, you have two types of paths. So here you will find the interesting things called as managed paths. Okay, you have wildcard inclusion, explicit inclusion, nothing but, and the wildcard inclusion. So generally one which ends with a root, so this will be your root site. Explicit is nothing but your dead end or roadblock root. Generally it ends with slash there. Also you can have something, but it ends. You cannot create site collections of this path. Create site collections after this site collections after this path, after the root path. That is your explicit inclusion. Okay, so you can have n number of things. So for each application, let me continue this wildcard inclusion. Wildcard inclusion is nothing but you generally will find sites slash. Okay, can create a number of site collections. You can create multiple site collections beneath this path and beneath this. Okay, so generally you cannot have more than 5 managed paths under each web application. That's the best practice. Okay, so explicit means it's a roadblock. You can have a number of things. So generally if you want to have departments, products, all this can be also act as a managed paths. Under that you can have subsites. Okay, we can have subsites either under site collections or a subsite. So this way we can create site collections or top level sites. In the next classes we'll see practically on how to create this web application site collections or subsites. But to do a quick recap on what we have learned through, okay, the pattern that we need to follow throughout this course is, okay, we need to make sure that what is the hierarchy, what is the pattern that we need to follow with respect to SharePoint. This is the best entry point for people who are newbie to get started with SharePoint. So make sure that you follow this pattern, you follow this practice. People start creating sites, but they don't know what is the first entry point, under which level does this subsite or a site collection fall. Okay, where to backup, where to restore, what to backup. Okay, make sure if you are aware about all these best practices. Form, web application, site collection, subsite. This will give you more understanding. Okay, now whatever you create from the GUI, you can do the same stuff using PowerShell, but make sure that, okay, you know the entry point. Okay, form is something that we need to install and configure. Web application is something that can be created from the form, so either using central admin or using PowerShell. Now the next thing comes, okay, site collection is something that you need to create under web application. So if you don't have a web application, we cannot create a site collection. If you don't have a web application, you cannot create a site collection. Similarly, once you have the site collection, and we will provide your typical site collection administrators. You will have two types of administrators. We have two types of administrators here who can manage. Administrators who can manage primary site collection administrator, primary site collection administrator, and your secondary site collection administrator who acts as a backup for the primary. So from a job perspective, we call generally this as L2 support, L2, L1. Okay, people who work only under subsites, take care of site columns, library list, documents. So they are called as the L1, the first level. Second level, people who own the access to the site collections, who can start creating site collection, they are the L2. And people who have access to the form administrators, they are called as L3 levels. Okay, so make sure, but if you want to start, yes, you are the L1 who will have access to the subsites. Okay, we will see about all these details in the next ongoing classes. Okay, for now we are good with these scopes in SharePoint: form, web application, site collection, and subsite. Okay, thank you. We will cover the practical sessions in the next video class. Thank you.